A very good evening to all the dignitaries, prominent speakers, and all the participants and attendees. I, Pratijan, welcomes all of you for the valedictory session of grand finale of Dream Startup Challenge 2021. Dream Startup Challenge is a joint initiative of AIC RNTU with CII and YII Bhopal chapter, and today we are gathered here for the sixth edition's grand finale. Please allow me to call the brains behind the competition, Mr. Siddharth Chaturvedi, Executive Vice President, ISEC Group, and Director at AIC RNTU Foundation, to share the brief about the competition with you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Prati, and good evening to everybody who's joined. Before I start, just taking Ronald, Mr. Gautam is also joining.
I'll just check with him, sir. He would be joining. I'll just check with him. Your voice is little feeble, sir.
Okay, wait, just give me a minute. Hello.
Yeah, the radio is visible now.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes. It's clear.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for joining, and a very good evening to all of you. I warmly welcome the speakers and the attendees for the valedictory session of the sixth edition of the Dream Startup Challenge, which is organized by CII and the Young Indians Bhopal chapter, and in association with the Atal Incubation Center, who's been the program manager and the knowledge partner for this entire track. So, just to go back a little bit, I think this is the sixth edition, and 6 years back, when I was an active member of YI, a couple of us got together, and we decided that we should test the waters and see what is the startup ecosystem looking like, at least in Bhopal or the central part of the country in Madhya Pradesh. And we decided to take a plunge and launch this program, which was not going to be a B-plan competition, but it would offer a structured approach to all the startups who apply and become finalists. And then they go through a series of mentorship sessions where we would pool in our resources and bring in our network and contacts to give the best exposure to the startups, and resulting in a finale day where they would get a chance to pitch in front of a very, very powerful jury. So that program has matured, and it has evolved. It has, I'm very happy to note that it has gone from strength to strength. And today, while we are in the sixth edition, we got, recall, we got 100 plus applications, and now it is not limited to just MP. We get applications from outside MP, in fact, many other states. Then there is a robust mechanism of due diligence, after which the finalists are selected. And then they are taken through a structured mentorship session, which is like a curriculum for a period of 3 months. And then they gather for a pitch, which happened earlier today. So today we've had 14 presenters who had been presenting before this, all of them mentored through the subject matter experts which this platform provided to them. We had the privilege of having a very good jury today. And for our jury members today, earlier we had Mr. Nikhil Kaushik, who's the chair of CII Bhopal zone. We also had Mr. Ankit Machar from NEN India, Head Ecosystem Development. We have Mr. Kaustubh from Syndicap Venture Partners. We had Mr. Utkarsh, Mr. Sparsh from Unicorn India Ventures, and Mr. Malik from founder and CEO of Bari Labs. So one of the hallmarks of this program is that we always strive to get the best jury panel so that the startups get very real-time feedback and good exposure in terms of presenting in front of stalwarts. So that is about the background of this finale in a nutshell. And we intend to keep growing this platform yet into a bigger fashion in the coming years and engage more and more themes. I remember the first 2 editions we had most of the themes coming from the .com or from the tech-based plays. But over the years, we've started getting agri-tech, health tech, social entrepreneurship ventures as well, which is also providing a good diverse mix to this platform. Today, I am joined by Mr. Pulkit Sharma, who's the chair of Young Indians Bhopal. And this whole thing started as a Young Indians property, and Young Indians would always be a part of this platform. So I'm very happy to have Pulkit today with us. We also earlier had Nikhil. As I said, we have Mr. Mihir Merchant, who's the vice chair of CII Bhopal zone today with us. And he's also taken keen interest in mentoring some of the startups earlier as part of the Dream Startup Challenge. And I am very happy and pleased to share with all of you the speakers today which are there with us. First up, we have Mr. Samar Singla. A quick introduction: he is a serial entrepreneur and a physicist by education. He has previously worked as a researcher at IBM and none other than CERN. He is one of the industry's foremost speakers. He's founded Jugnu. We all know about the success story of Jugnu, with a vision to transform the Indian auto rickshaw sector. Apart from Jugnu, he's also founded Click Labs, a SaaS technology solution provider of business suite called Jungle Works. And his personal website calls him, very interestingly, someone somewhere in a garage, which clearly portrays his love and penchant for building new things. So welcome to this valedictory session, Mr. Samar. We're pleased to have you with us. We also have Mr. Gautam Srivaramakrishnan. Gautam drives the VC and PE ecosystem at Microsoft, where he collaborates with VC funds, their portfolio startups and corporates to enable the growth of startups through tech and go-to-market interventions. In his earlier stint, he was driving the global startup initiatives at Infosys. He's been a very active member of the startup ecosystem. He's been on the board of Head Start, where he oversees the strategy and operations of large number of startups. He's also a CA by background. I also welcome Mr. Gautam today with us. And finally, we are joined by today's finalists and other keen members of the startup ecosystem in and around Bhopal, in Madhya Pradesh, and a few other cities as well. So we made sure that this valedictory session is not just a feedback session for the finalists, but it also offers an opportunity to learn for other members of the startup ecosystem of this region. So we are joined by 100+ participants who are keenly listening to this program. So finally, to take this program ahead, I would now like to hand this back over to Kriti to take this ahead. And once again, as the founding member of the Dream Startup Challenge, it's my pleasure to invite all of you to the finale, and all the best to the finalists. As I said, the real value of this entire platform is in the journey which you have undertaken and the feedback which you would have got today during your presentations. So with this, I would close my opening remarks and hand it over back to Kriti. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Moving forward, I would like to invite Mr. Pulkit Sharma, Chair at Young Indians and Executive Director at Daulat Ram Engineering Services Private Limited, for his address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kriti. Good evening, Siddharth, Samars, and Gautam, and all the eminent jury members. We are very pleased to have you all with us. So as Siddharth mentioned, that Dream Startup Challenge is via Bhopal's marquee initiative, And I'm very, very glad that Siddharth, we are, in 6th or 7th year of this startup challenge, and there must be, n number of success stories that have gone ahead with this initiative. And hearty congratulations to everyone who is involved with this. And I will just like to mention a few points about what we do as young Indians. We are basically a movement of young leaders of India who wants to bring change to our country. And we what our dream is that when someone in the higher authorities or in the government wants to know what young people in India think about, they should come and talk to young Indians about it, and we give them our suggestions of what young minds and young leaders in India think about how to bring change. So our pillars in YI are nation building, youth leadership, and thought leadership. Under nation building, we are grooming our Yuva students, which are basically college students. We are making them responsible and grooming them to take bigger and better roles in the future. We are providing learning to our members, to our Yuva students, to our school students, which is Thaler. We take learning missions to our best of the factories, best of the institutes in the country. Recently, we took a learning session to Labasna, which is Lal Bahadur Shastri Academy of Administration. So, the engagements that we have in YI is class apart, and we are only organization in the country that represents at G20 nationally and Commonwealth Entrepreneurs Association in UK. So in under leadership, we have child safety awareness program, which is called as Masoom, road safety, organ donation, entrepreneurship, which this event is a part of, innovation, and rural initiatives. Under thought leadership, we have various debates, talk shows, online campaigns, petitions, surveys, and government engagements. And this year has been equally bad as last one because of the COVID, and CI and YI has created a platform where we could help each other and help the community to come out of this situation. And I hope this startup challenge goes strength to strength, and many more years where we produce best of the best companies out of Bhopal. Again, I would like to thank every one of you to join in today, and all the panelists and all the members who took part in this Dream Startup Challenge. A hearty thanks to every one of you. Thank you. Thank you, Krati.
Thank you so much, sir. Now moving forward to a keynote speakers and speaker session, I would like to call upon Mr. Samar Singla, founder and CEO of Jugnu and Jungle Works, for your session. Over to you, sir.
Hey guys, first of all, thanks for having me here. It's really good to see some faces, even though remotely in these tough times. I hope you're all safe and staying safe as much as possible, and also trying to get vaccinated. Yeah, so I'm here to essentially give you guys a little bit of motivation. Even though I see that India has a very vibrant ecosystem in startups at this moment, but it's largely still focused in some of the top cities like Bangalore, maybe Mumbai, and Delhi NCR. So I think that's actually one of the reasons why I love talking to students in tier 2 city colleges, because or places, because I think that's where the next the wave of Indian startups is coming from, and it's already happening. So if you see, Chandigarh has a few. So we are from Chandigarh, and Chandigarh has a few startups already. In fact, Indore, Jaipur, right? All these all the Kochi, Mysore, tier 2 cities in India are actually doing very well when it comes to comes to starting up. I think costs are low, quality of life is decent. You don't have to like stay in like transport for 2 hours in your every day. And I think so there are numerous benefits really, right? And so I think with that, I would love to like just touch upon like what I've done and what my path was, and maybe then give you a few pointers which will probably help you at this stage. I mean, so let's say 10 years ago, what are things I would have wanted that somebody should have told me. So I think let's keep it that way, and if anybody wants to ask anytime, just feel free. So guys, I graduated from 2000 from IIT Delhi in 2009, and to be honest, I had no idea what I wanted to do. My CGPA was 5.9, so I was not really getting a good job anyways, and I studied from physics. So physics and low CGPA kind of and actually that year was also an year after the 2008 crash, right? So it was pretty bad time to have a low CGPA, and so the best option for me was I had some good internship experiences. So I went. I thought I'll go abroad and start a higher studies course. So I chose. So luckily, I got some good places to admit me because of my credentials in so I was always very good at experimental stuff, not really very good at studies and grades. So because of that, I got some good opportunities, went to University of Maryland, so spent a year there, was supposed to start my PhD in 2010 October, when I realized that I actually did not enjoy physics as much as I thought I would. But actually so there was this I'll tell you a very small story why I thought what made me realize that I'm not really built for physics. So in University of Maryland, I was doing research on NMR. So essentially it's like magnetic so NMR is nuclear magnetic resonance, the big machine that you go in and it kind of images the body's internals and stuff. So we were trying to build using that technology, build the next version of hard disks, right? So that was kind of the goal of the whole lab, and it was called Magnetic Racetrack Memory Group. And it didn't like pan out that well, but found new applications and stuff. So in that, when we would make these chips, we would actually have to test them, if we could like change the magnetic domains and stuff, right? So as a experiment, right, what width of the say the magnetic strip should be, what should be the depth of it. It's all nanometers, so you had to like do a lot of experiments to figure out what is the right configuration to build a hard disk, right? That was essentially my goal, or my work really in the lab. So there were these small copper pins, right, like really small, like maybe 2 centimeter, very specific shape, and that one pin was like $3 or something, right? So we would buy them from like a specific vendor in US. So this was in US, Maryland. And I asked my guide, like, why are these so expensive? He said, like, only one guy makes them, like only one, lab or factory makes them in the country, and that's why they're so expensive. And they were just like essentially copper pins, right, in a specific shape. So I said, okay, and there was this Thanksgiving vacation. So I said, do you, can I like try making them? So, so he said, fine. Like I just Googled how to make these, like there's a concept called photolithography, not very tough to do. So what you do is you take a transparency, you print out the design on it, and then you transfer that design on a sheet of copper by photo principles, and then you just etch away the copper sheet, and the design is left, and then you just wash it, right? So it's fairly simple, like sort of, I mean, if somebody has done some choti moti mechanic ki hai agar bachpan mein, to it's kind of not that difficult. So we did that, and I said it was over a Thanksgiving break. So maine apne prof, I asked my guide, can I just make a website and we start selling them also? right? So we started selling, I think, like 1/3 the price, so like say $1. And I reached out to few universities in US who were like kind of doing the similar thing, right? So I did that, and we sold a little bit, and we made okay money, like few $1,000s for the university. I didn't get anything, but the whole experience taught me. I thought, like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do the physics thing. I would rather, like, build small machines, small pins or whatever for people and sell them and kind of, move forward. So because research was very slow, right? I mean, of course, research is what gives the real impact, but I'm an impatient person. So that kind of, made me realize that I don't want to, do the physics thing. So I came back to India and actually started my father's poultry business. So he had poultry farm in Sangrur. It's a small town in Punjab, and I realized that it's a pretty bad industry in the sense, like, nobody really cared about how things could be better. There was like a set pattern for everything. Nobody wanted to innovate. Nobody wanted to think about innovation. Everybody thought, okay, you buy grains, you buy stuff, you feed it to chicken, they give eggs, and then done. There was no branding, nothing. Largely, I think even today that's how it is. So I started doing a lot of things, a lot of resistance from family, but one thing led to another. I stumbled upon this product called DDGS, which was not being done in India, but incidentally, University of Maryland, where I was doing physics, had a big poultry research lab where I would just generally go, out of interest, and they had started this. So I found that nobody was doing it in India. I started doing that in India. There was like, maybe like 6-8 months it took us to build it, to make the design, the machine, like everything. So I was just writing to people and just designing the machine and stuff. And we started manufacturing it. The waste, the raw material for that was actually given to us for free by distilleries in the region, right, in and around Chandigarh region, basically. So it was, I mean, first nobody wanted it, of course, like, it is with every new business. And then suddenly people started realizing it's very good, because when you make liquor from alcohol, when you make alcohol from grains, like the stuff that's left is actually fairly good, because there's a lot of yeast and there's a lot of protein in it. Chicken love it, right? So whoever started using it, was very happy. So we kind of, for like 1 year or maybe like 18 months, there was like literally zero revenue, and then suddenly we were like almost swimming in money for that time, right? For like 8-9 years ago. I had just started my first company, it was like early days for me. So the first offer came very quickly from an HNI kind of group. They had some trading business in Hong Kong. They realized this is pretty good opportunity for them. They offered me a valuation which was pretty high for me, at that time as a new entrepreneur. So I sold the company, and in reality I thought, I always wanted to do software or technical stuff, right? That was a bit too poultry for me. So I sold that company, started Click Labs again. Same thing, we started building software for people. And traditional route was you hired engineers, you basically tried to do what American or European clients wanted you to do. Did that for about 2 years, and then stumbled upon the idea of Jugnu. Again, it was very experimental, not really like research based. So there was this festival of Punjab Engineering College in Chandigarh. We tried out, we just roughly put together an app, and we tested it out, and it apparently worked pretty well. In a few months time, we had 1,000 requests coming from Chandigarh, and we said, okay, there's something there. Raised a bunch of money and kind of took it fairly large, like to about 100 cities, and raised about $15 million. And then what happened was, so Ola and Uber started realizing that this space is getting hot. The auto rickshaws were getting hot, and people were actually leaving taxis for auto rickshaws, right? Because in India, people just want fast and cheap, right? They don't really care about convenient and safe and all that stuff, right? So we realized we can't compete with those guys. Like, they had billions of dollars raised. So we pivoted to B2B, and we became a platform for mobility. And so today, I mean, that's where we are. So, it's kind of last 10 years in super fast mode. And we are, about 800-900 people company. We have a bunch of products, mostly SaaS B2B. I mean, all SaaS B2B. And so what we have evolved into is essentially, so if you look at commerce today, right, there is e-commerce, there's Amazon. But if you see, so our thesis is that 5 to 10 years down the line, commerce is going to look much more fluid, in the sense that somebody is going to buy products, somebody's going to buy a tuition class, somebody's going to buy a music lesson, somebody's going to buy a song. And so the nature of commerce is changing from, today you buy or you order for a product, it gets delivered to you from some warehouse in 3 days, to more like a real time commerce, right, where payment is just one focus. But the whole transaction takes, let's say, anywhere from 30 minutes to like 2 hours. But there's constant communication with the person who's providing the service or the product. So we call it like hyper local commerce and creator commerce, right? And so that's the theme that we have. And really, so what we do is we just look at, from the point of interaction of a consumer with offerings of a merchant, right, to the point of delivery of service or product. These are like, there are roughly 8 to 10 steps. I don't want to bore you with that. And we have really just a product for every step. And we have about 4,000 customers across the globe, and we do about 1 million transactions a day on our platform. So to roughly put, I mean, I tried a lot of bunch of things, but I realized that what I'm really good at is enabling people do commerce of different style, not purely e-commerce, but more hyper local commerce, more, if you want to, let's say, start a tuition class, start courses, and like more creator commerce and hyper local commerce, right? So that's, I think, how you can put it. So yeah, I mean, growing like 30-40% year on year, and things are pretty good. And sorry to say, but pandemic was pretty good for our business. I felt guilty for it for some time, but then I realized, maybe the way to look at it is, we are providing employment to so many people. So there are roughly about 50,000 people on a daily basis who earn on our platform. And we actually very recently calculated the GMV. That is so estimated, not calculated really, because we don't take a cut on GMV. So we estimated the GMV to be around $150 million a month. So we're pretty surprised that we have about $2 billion of GMV on our platform. But we are really a SaaS play, so we don't really care about that. So I think that's our story, right? And the thesis is very simple. For future, we have so many things to do. We have the thesis is, there's like so many customer requests. Pretty much every company you look at, like be it a large company, be it a small company, right, they need on demand as a distribution channel. So if you to give you an example of a customer, so if you order McDonald's, anything from McDonald's, say Bombay, Ahmedabad, anywhere. So when the person delivers you the burger, the app he or she is using to just look at where the order is to be picked up, where the order is to be delivered, and how much money he made, and all that stuff. So backend, that is all happening on our platform, roughly. So that's what we are. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, like my journey has really been just a bunch of experiments, stumbling from one place to another, rather than a planned push. So that's kind of, so I wanted to give you these 3 tips really, rather than anything else. They might be a little counterintuitive, because I think they are not very, like, if you read a startup book, I think it's probably not what has worked for me, because I honestly never really read a startup book. I just kept doing it, and in that times it was called a business. Now it's called a startup or entrepreneurship venture or whatever, right? So the first tip is really, just follow the money, right? I mean, that's what I've pretty much done. I mean, today, if you talk to VCs, there's like this stigma against profits, right? Like, if you go talk to Sequoia or somebody, they'll say, no, 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 don't worry about profits. I mean, it works for those guys because they're trying to maybe like build, bare minimum $1 billion companies and stuff. But I feel that, we Indians, our DNA is really good when we are transactional in nature, right? Matlab, you would have seen like, Gujju Bhai, and Marwadi Bhai, Bania Bhai, all that stuff, right? I mean, they're all very good at like calculating quickly, okay, how can I make money in this? And I think that's a strength, right? We shouldn't go away from it. And to be honest, I've burnt a lot of money on B2C promotions, as a lot of people have. But I realized one thing, right? I mean, transactional money, when you like build something, give value of 10 rupees to a customer and take 2 rupees for every transaction, that's amazing, right? We make about 3 rupees per transaction, a million transactions a day, like 30 lakh rupee done, and end of story. So I think that's what motivates, I think, a lot of Indians, right? I mean, because like I'm a typical middle class Indian kid, not kid anymore, but yeah, I was. So I think, that's what you should follow, right? Don't worry about people saying, profits are bad, right? So that's number one tip. Number two, I think the next big wave or opportunity is actually in tier two cities, right? Because even today, if you see, I mean, of course, Bangalore is great, Delhi is great, in terms of, well, maybe except like market size, but life quality is really bad. So, if you compare Indian large cities to, let's say, American large cities or European large cities, first, Indian large cities are like mega large, right? By terms of population. They shouldn't exist, right? This kind of population density shouldn't exist anywhere in the world. It just exists, I think, because of so much poverty here. Or I don't know, I'm not an economist, but it shouldn't exist. And life is just really bad here. So I would say the wave, I mean, if you see Car Dekho in Jaipur, they're doing great. I mean, there's less distraction. So I would recommend you guys don't think about going out. Try to make it work, because this is going to be a moat. We are in Chandigarh. A lot of people ask me, a lot of VCs, in fact, I recently met like a few bunch of VCs, who reached out to us and said, yeah, my family's from Chandigarh, but who does anything there? Right? It's like a city of retired people. I said, exactly, it's a city of retired people where people have a lot of money and people have a very good relaxed lifestyle. So, you don't have that kind of lifestyle anywhere else in the city. So, it's similar. Indore is very similar. Jaipur is very similar. So, I think that's my second tip, right? Go, build businesses in smaller cities. The arbitrage is still there. There is a lot of arbitrage. There's a lot of talent in these cities, and especially if you can crack the female talent that does not get the opportunity to work, not because you want to do social good, purely because the arbitrage is there, right? They don't have opportunities, and if you give them opportunities, it's obviously better for you. So that's my second tip. And the final tip is really, let me look at my notes, guys. I just forgot, blanked out. Yeah. So the final tip is, there's a lot of capital chasing build in India and solve for India, right? So they call it Bharat Stack and all, right? I mean, the like mega companies being mega funding rounds being done. Like, look at, and they're legit companies, total respect, very good companies. But to be honest, I think the opportunity is very crowded, right? The real opportunity that I think that VCs are maybe not that focused on is build in India, build for the world, right? So if you look at Israel, if you look at Nordic countries, right, they've really done it because of compulsion that they never had a large market, right? India, we feel that it's a very large market, but in reality, it's not really a very large market. I mean, the paying capacity or the disposable income is really low. I mean, I don't want to badmouth India. I love my country, right? I mean, I think that we should all try to do something. But I think that the best thing that you can really do is build something that the whole world wants. It could be software. Look at Grey Orange, right? Cash flow positive business from day one. So my tip is essentially to find a problem statement that is a global problem statement build it out, and sell to the world, right? Eventually, 5 years down the line, you'll probably start. And today, we have 30% or maybe 20% of our revenue comes from India without any efforts. We have never really put any efforts in India, but revenue has already started coming out of India organically. Because, and also we are happy to give cheaper prices in India, right? And Africa, Southeast Asia, South America, right? But I'm pretty sure if we started with India as our primary market, we would have never been where we are, because of the simple fact that there is just no disposable income. So I think with that, I mean, that's really like, three things I wanted to tell you, which are slightly kind of not completely what VCs would condone. Maybe they would, some of them, but some of them would not. And yeah, I mean, with that, I think I have a question. So let me just answer that. So how do you think as a SaaS platform or e-commerce can cope up with the competition if they're starting now? So bang on. I think I'll take one of these tips from the problem statement that I just mentioned. I mean, be out of their sight, right? Don't go sit in Bangalore. Don't be in middle of all this attention. And to be honest, I hate attention because I think there's so much pressure on you. So the best thing to do with competition, especially when it comes to tech startups, is to ignore it, right? Just forget about your competition, right? And of course, my guys, like, there's always like 30% talk about competition. He raised this much money on this valuation. And there's like, it gets tough, right? I mean, recently a competitor who's like maybe smaller than us, I mean, probably like 30% smaller than us, raised like a bunch, like a mega round, right? So now my whole team is like worried. Wow, what are they going to do with all that money, right? And will they burn against us? Will they poach our people? And guys, I know it's scary for me too, but I think the best approach to deal with competition is to ignore it, right? Just talk to your customers, right? And say, forget about competition, right? Whenever you're worried about competition, you just tell yourself, okay, can I? So for me, like the best therapy, whenever I would have anxiety or anything, I would actually just start taking Jugno rides. Can't do anymore because of COVID. And just talk to auto drivers. Like almost every auto driver in Chandigarh has my number. I've changed that number. Now I have like two numbers, so for the same reason, right? But they had my number. They mostly know me, right? And what are your issues, and just try to solve them. Like simple things like, how do you get referrals working? And rather than having like a weird referral code, can you have like a mobile phone of the driver as the referral code, because the driver will always remember it right away. So simple things like that, you just get these by talking to your customers. And that could be my auto driver, that could be a delivery boy in Vietnam. Incidentally, our largest customer is in Vietnam, right? I mean, I have no idea. I was in Vietnam like 3 years ago. I actually went there for my honeymoon, not connected, not because of that. But my wife still thinks that, I went there because we had the largest customer there and, I wanted to just test them out. Well, that might be partially true also. But my point is, talk to your customers, look at their problems, keep solving the problems, forget about the competition. I think when you become like a Microsoft or a Google or somebody, you'll probably have to think about what the competition is doing. But, I think in the stages that probably we're talking about, I don't think, I mean, at least our stage, we are at about 15-20 million ARR USD. And I think till we are like 10x, we don't have to think about competition. I mean, the problem is all internal. How better can we build our processes? How better can we market? All those things. So yeah, I think that's I think hopefully it helps. I don't know, guys. I mean, I am more like a storyteller. Yeah, I'm not really a gyan giver. I don't I'm not very, I can't listen to teachers, so I can't like talk like teachers. So so yeah, there's another question. I'll answer that. How can a hardware based venture initiate with international, considering challenges conducting offline pilots and demos? I mean, to be honest, Abdul, what I would say is, the best thing to do if you are doing a hardware thing is to try and ask your your customer for money for all the expenses that you'll have to pay, right? Because a lot of times we assume that if you're building hardware, it's going to be expensive. You're going to have to do demos for free. It's not the case a lot of times. So in fact, even today, right, the way we build features is we have a roadmap that's public. You can go and see how much time will this feature take. If you want to change or expedite a feature, we actually charge them money, right? So we say, okay, guys, you can look at the feature. You want it faster, you pay us $10,000, whatever, right? And it works. And I think it's not like we've not invented it. All large companies do it. So I think, if you think that being a hardware company, you won't be able to do demos, why not, man? You can. Everybody, trust me, the limitations that we think are there, yes, the hardware ecosystem is not that great in India, fair enough, but no country in the world has hardware ecosystem as mature as China. Even US, there's like really bad hardware ecosystem today there because China has really taken everything over. So I think from that perspective, do you just give up? I don't think so. But if you look at Grey Orange, 90% of their business is exports. So I think don't think about these problems in the beginning. A person asks your product, he wants it enough, he'll have to pay. And you'll find those people. In the beginning, you'll have to say no to a lot of people, but you can always go back to them in six months. In fact, earlier I would do the same thing. I would say, okay, guys, we don't have this feature. You either pay or you wait 6 months. A lot of times people would not pay, but 6 months later also they were finding that feature only. So they would pay at that time. So I think probably that helps. So yeah, I hope this helped, guys. The thinking is, I've been to Bhopal once, by the way. I love the city, and Bhopal, Indore, Kanpur. I think these cities are in the Indore, especially, they're like very nice, clean cities, and sort of similar to Chandigarh, like vibe-wise. So I really like the cities, and I remember Bhopal had really nice food. So.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Samar. Thank you. That was really wonderful. Moving forward, may I request Kriti to take the session forward?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Now moving on to our next keynote speaker. Please allow me to welcome Mr. Gautam Sivakrishnan. He's venture capital and private equity ecosystem at Microsoft and director at Head Start Network Foundation. Over to you, Gautam, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kriti. Before I start, I would love to acknowledge, for talking from the heart. So I think it's been a great journey for you, Samar, in terms of building from Chandigarh. So I was able to resonate with a lot of points that you shared, so candidly or from the heart. And I believe that, these are things that are very, very important, right? I remember, we tried catching up just before the lockdown one. I was in Chandigarh, I think 5 days before the lockdown that was announced in March 2020, and we were in touch to see if we could catch up, but it was a quick trip, some chaos with panic around lockdown, and I headed back to Bangalore. But I'm sure once things are fine, I would love to be back in Chandigarh and do beyond that day trip that I did. So
yeah, man, these are just crazy times, but yeah, hopefully soon. Hopefully we are at the final stages of this COVID thing. Yeah.
Absolutely. For me, I still remember it was supposed to be a 3-day trip in Chandigarh, but ended up being, landing at 10 and leaving at 5. And, top of my cards was 3 days in Chandigarh, you have to spend a dinner with someone, right? And unfortunately, it couldn't happen. But thank you so much.
Next time, man.
We should. I think right after things get better, Bhopal, Indore should also be something that we do. And
exactly.
From there, we should do a Chandigarh trip. But beautiful points there, Samar. I'm just gonna take it up from there because you set the stage. I'm just gonna build on top of what you've shared with the young entrepreneurs there, because I think there is never a better time to start up than now, right? And as entrepreneurs, the best chance for you to start up is when there are enough problems to solve. The more the problems that we have around us, it is just going to be better opportunities for us to solve. Uh, but before that, I would love to congratulate the entire team behind the Dream Startup Challenge. Mr. Siddharth, Ronald, a very good friend of mine, Ronald and Ayush, all of you have been doing a great job with mobilizing the ecosystem in Central India. I think it's extremely important. Sitting here in Bangalore, I can say that there's a great amount of FOMO for the startup ecosystem. Like what Samar mentioned at least a few times, the best time to build out of a tier two ecosystem is now, right? So far there's always been a great push towards building out of Bangalore, Delhi. The VC conversations, like what Samar said, was always around come to where the market is, come closer to where the talent is. I think the best thing that the lockdown's probably done or the pandemic's done for us is a lot of the talent have gone back to closer to their hometowns, right? And there is always the conversation now that says, hey, there's a great opportunity for us to leverage the arbitrage, build from tier two cities, for the global market. And I think I wanted to reiterate what Samar mentioned there. It's extremely important for us to build from that mindset, build from India for the global market. While you can always start with building for the market closest to you, right? Start with building for MP, start with building for India, but keep the global market in mind, because those are classic success stories that we've had, in different countries, right? Where from day one, they want to build for the global market. So just wanted to keep it there, and also congratulate all the finalists who pitched today, and best wishes to the winners who are going to be announced. First of all, it takes a good amount of courage to go through these challenges, survive till the end, and be acknowledged a winner. But more importantly, even if you've just been a finalist, I think it's a great achievement, right? Because your decision to turn an entrepreneur itself needs to be acknowledged. It is also a fact that it is a very lonely journey. You don't have too many people who understand why you do what you do, right? And it is fine if folks at home, like again, going back to what Samar mentioned in terms of folks at home didn't really appreciate what he was doing in his first venture. So I think this is something that we've all faced, during our journey, right? Our family, our parents, our spouse, they would really not appreciate at some point what we do. And I think it's fine. You can't expect yourself to please everyone and convince everyone. As an entrepreneur, as long as you're able to, convince your customer and get him to understand the value that you think you're able to bring him, I think that's good enough. And that's where most importantly, it's a good thing that all of you are also making use of these kind of platforms. Like I said, while it's a lonely journey, it's also an emotionally draining journey, right? Because you go through highs and lows. You go through times where you start questioning yourself, your business model, whether it's working, not working, should we shut it down, do I take debt? So I think which is where having these kind of founder peer groups make a huge difference, right? Have that bunch of fellow entrepreneurs who you can use as a soundboard. Catch up once in 15 days or once a month, just exchange notes on how they're building, how what's working for you, what's not. I think that will make a huge difference, especially the founder peer groups, because nobody would understand what you're going through better than fellow founders, right? So definitely not the investors. So keep them in mind. But broadly, a couple of quick pointers that I wanted to share is, definitely keep hustling. As an entrepreneur, you need to be shameless, especially in your initial days. You should not be ashamed to ask for support. You should not be ashamed to ask for feedback from a potential customer, right? You should not be ashamed till you get the best version of your product out, right? So be shameless. That's something that I really tell a lot of founders that I meet and I work with. and keep hustling, right? Because it is not a bed of roses, and you cannot expect it to be a bed of roses. While uh, you know the entire concept of startups has become, as is no longer taboo, right? 5 years, 6 years, 8 years ago, uh, for unless you come from a typical uh, you know entrepreneurial community or entrepreneurial family, doing a business or running a startup was taboo. It was never mainstream, and now we see 10x or 100x more youngsters wanting to start up, right? So while it is definitely a lot more glamorous because of the mainstream media that is covering startups, just wanted to add that note of caution that obsess over your customers, don't obsess over investors, right? As long as you obsess over your customers and keep your customers happy and keep making money, investors will come and obsess over you, right? Never do the other way around, where you believe you're trying to build something or pitch something for investors and you're obsessing over investors and you forget to spend time with the customers. Money will never end up buying your customers, right? It is your hustle, your product. So please keep that in mind. Don't build a startup because you want investors on board. Build a startup because you're solving for a problem that you see either close to where you are or where you come from, and that's more important. Just wanted to put it out there. But on that note, I think we are definitely at a better place as an ecosystem from an investment perspective, right? Just this year, we would have seen about 15 unicorns in the startup ecosystem, all amazing, ventures that are being built. Many of them disrupting the incumbents in that space, right? We would have heard a lot of startups acquiring or buying out larger incumbents, which is great news. For us as technologists, for us as entrepreneurs, that building the right technology can help us really disrupt some of the larger companies. So on that note, I think what it really has done is, with a lot of these larger funds coming into India, larger funds investing in these unicorns, it's definitely brought a great amount of liquidity to the folks who had invested in the first few rounds of these unicorn startups, right? A lot of the angel investors, a lot of the first employees or the core employees of these unicorn startups who've all been able to vest their ESOPs, right? Then the investors who came in at a pre-series A seed stage. So these are all folks who've seen their exits, and anyone who has been active in the startup ecosystem, who makes money through the startup ecosystem, always puts it back into the startup ecosystem, right? So there's definitely a great amount of liquidity, but a final word of caution is chase your customers and obsess over them, because that's where investors would really come in. There is definitely a great FOMO in terms of what's happening in tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? So a lot of investors, are looking at startups that are coming out of tier 2 cities, because you are probably problems that you're solving in the regional landscape for the global landscape, right? So keep that in mind as one more pointer that you should you should consider. And I think a couple of quick pointers that I believe a lot of us at an early stage make mistakes. We believe that we really need that funding, or we need the perfect version of the product before we start making money or go to customers, right? Please don't ever get into that loop, right? Keep building, keep pushing it out to, or rolling it out to the customers, keep taking feedback, keep making new iterations there, right? And something very important what Samar mentioned was keep seeing how you can make money with the smallest or the lowest version that you can or the earliest version you can roll out, right? So it could be your MVP, but how do you start making money from it? Because if you're not able to make money, it means that you're solving a problem probably, but the customer is not able to perceive the value that you believe you're adding to them, right? it is not about the value that you believe as a founder you bring to the customer. It is about the value that the customer perceives out of the product that he uses, right? So your pricing is always about the perceived value. So be very clear of how you're able to do that. A couple of final pointers on that as well. Why would a customer really pay you at that early stage, right? If you're looking at a B2C side, as long as there is some convenience that you bring in or change in experience, which is probably adding value to him, he's going to. But most importantly, anyone you help make money, there's always an opportunity for you to make money there, right? So again, going back to what someone highlighted, as long as you're, enabling transactions to happen, you're making your customer have transactions and make money out of it, there's always money to be made there, right? Or in simple terms, there's also another parlance that we use, that it's either you enable him to make money or you enable him to become famous or popular. There's always money in that for you to make. But from a B2B perspective, I keep this rule of 3 E's, right? As long as you're bringing in effectiveness to something that's already there, which means if you're making something more accurate, or adding to the top line for the customer, he is going to be using you or buying from you. The second E that you should remember is, efficiency, right? As long as you're able to help the customer from a bottom line perspective, help him reduce cost, help him reduce or do things faster, right? So again, borrowing from somewhere cheaper and faster is something that we use, right? So as long as there's efficiency gain that you bring in, there's a perceived value that you can sell. And the third E that you should remember is experience, right? Effectiveness, efficiency, and experience. I think these are 3 very important E's that all of you should remember and use as a part of your sales pitch in terms of what are the E's that you're really addressing and bringing in. So I think broadly these are 3 things that I wanted you to remember. And even from a Microsoft perspective, there's a great feeling that we believe tier 2, tier 3 ecosystems is the future in India. So we also run a program called Highway to 100 Unicorns, where we are looking at unearthing the next 100 potential unicorns right at an early stage from the tier 2 or emerging markets in India, and work very closely with them on through technology interventions, helping them build better tech, and also from a potential GTM. So on that note, I just wanted to put one final thought for you, that the time to start up is now. It is never tomorrow or sometime in future. So if you're ever looking at looking to start up, it is now. There are so many no-code tools and tools that allow you to put up a website over the weekend. So you don't necessarily have to pay 1 lakh, 2 lakhs to a web development firm to get your website up. Your MVP can be as simple as putting up a WordPress site or a no-code tool, to get that MVP up over a weekend, right? Anything that takes more than 5K, from a budget for you, or more than a weekend for you in terms of getting the first version out, in most likely it's not gonna, be done over a year as well, right? So don't tell yourself that I need that 5 lakhs money from the investor or 50 lakh money from the investors to really, validate this and take it to market. You're really not going the right direction. So just wanted to leave you there with those thoughts that, no better time in India to start up than now, because the entire ecosystem is coming together to support you. Our entrepreneurs that started a decade ago or a couple of decades ago didn't have the support. So, but they ended up, still turning successful. With all this support, we should really scale much faster. So all the best to all of you.
Thank you. So Ronald, back to you. What do we have next? Would you like to?
Sir, next is the result announcement. I think you take it forward and announce the results.
Okay. So before that, I think Gautam, we had one question for you. Yeah, I mean you can see that, and if you
Sure.
if you would like to put your comments on that, that will be good.
Sure. I'll probably just take 30 seconds for Abdul. Early stage tech startups, especially let's say SaaS startups or anyone with tech first, looking at reaching out to top funds or even top corporates like Microsoft, etc. Tell yourself that idea is worth nothing, right? As long as you are able to build some traction on it, right? So there is some reason why you need to showcase that you are the right person, who the investors need to back for you to build this. Show them something that you will, you can show to them in terms of why you are the best person behind this. Build some traction, speak to 100 potential customers, build your MVP, build some traction, and take that feedback back to these tech giants, right? A lot of times tech giants will not invest at an idea stage. They want minimum traction for them to even participate. So which is why my point on obsess over your customers as much as possible, but there's nothing that keeps you away from staying in touch with them and keep giving them updates, right? So don't hold yourself back. Don't worry about what others will think in terms of what stage you are. My first point to you was, as an entrepreneur, you need to be shameless. It is fine to get rejected 5 times. It's fine to get a feedback that you're too early for them. At least the 6th time they will say, okay, I think you're at a stage where we can consider, right? Whereas if you don't even reach to them or speak to them, it's an opportunity that is completely missed. So keep staying in touch, keep giving updates. Most of the times it takes the 3rd or 5th or 6th time for you to crack these meetings. Never expect a customer or an investor to close in your first meeting.
Thank you. So I think that brings us to the final part of this session. Once again, many thanks to Gautam and Samar for sparing time and speaking to all of us. I'm sure all of us found great value in those words of wisdom, and I have myself also taken down a few reminders from these sessions. So and that has been the effort right from the beginning, that for the final session we should have somebody who can not just interact with the finalists but also interact with other people by and large. So now moving ahead, I've got the results finally of the 6th edition of the Dream Startup Challenge, and it is at these this moment when I'm missing the physical face-to-face thing which we format which we used to have, because there was a sense of excitement and we used to announce that. But nonetheless, virtually so. Let me go ahead and announce the results, and this has been calculated based on the marks given by the 5 jury members. They all had a scoring sheet, and they all had submitted their scoring sheets. The total was calculated based on those sheets. The final results was also once again shared with all the jury members for their judgment and correction. So with all that filtering, the final results which we have, starting from the second runners-up. The second runners-up is the startup Clever Kisan, and name of the founder is Ms. Sanghamitra. So congratulations, Clever Kisan, and well done for this. The first runners-up for the 6th edition is the startup Holo Shiksha, and the founder Abdul Basit. So congratulations, Abdul. Clever Kisan was from the agri domain, and Holo Shiksha is from the education domain. So congratulations to you. And the winner, there's no winner, let's say, but in terms of the points tally, the only slight difference, and we have the first prize for this edition going to the startup Kutumba, and the name of the founder is Mr. Vinay. So congratulations. And this is, I believe, in the health and the home healthcare aid services domain. So we have health, agriculture, and education, and it could not have been a better representation of our country's priorities in terms of sectors. It's almost a reminder of the importance of these three sectors. So congratulations to all three of you, and we would certainly like to have a quick word from all three of you before I hand it over to my friend Meher for giving the closing remarks for this. So Sanghamitra, then Abdul, and then Vinay. Just a quick line or two on the entire experience, and anything which you would like to give as feedback based on the Dream Startup Challenge experience.
Yeah, should I start first?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you so much, AIC RNTU, because they have been guiding us since last year, and thank you so much, Ronald sir, Krati and Ayush. So we got our first customer from AIC RNTU only, and whatever we have achieved till now is because of AIC RNTU. They have encouraged us a lot, and thank you for selecting us as the second runners up in this Dream Startup Challenge. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And if you and the others can also just describe your, because a lot of people would be new, just describe your startup in one.
Sure. So what we are trying to do through Clever Kisan is we are trying to provide a platform wherein the supply chain operations of the agriculture sector is optimized, as well as we are also providing a market linkage to the farmers so that they can sell their produce in bulk. So we have associated with Bombay Stock Exchange e-agricultural market and Farmex, so we also provide a market linkage, and going forward we are also planning to work with the farmers directly and handhold them. So that's our next plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and all the best
you.
for your future. Moving on, may I invite Abdul to share a few words?
Hello, I'm audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible.
Hi, thank you so much for giving me opportunity to participate in this program. Sorry, I'm not able to turn on my video because I've been suffering from malaria, but still I tried my level best to pitch today. And thank you, Ronald, for allowing me, providing me the flexibility to. So, about Holo Shiksha in one line, at Holo Shiksha, we are on a vision to revolutionize classroom learning experience with our world first patent protected holographic classroom technology and virtual 3D classroom platform. And anyone can just search on YouTube Holo Abdul. They can find our video over there. And thank you so much to everyone. Deepak sir for mentoring, Ronald sir, Ayush, Krati, all the management people, including Madhvi as well, for supporting us, giving us this great opportunity and interacting with the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abdul, and all the best. Can we have a few words from Vinay?
Sure. Hey, so really glad to win this competition. And in fact, I still remember when we pitched to AIC RNTU, I think we were just writing the first line of code back then. It's been a fantastic journey because along with AIC RNTU's guidance, we have been able to release our MVP, get early user feedback, and we are also iterating on the next version of the product, which we'll be releasing in a week's time. So in fact, all the advice that we got in today's mentoring and speaker sessions actually applies to us because we have actually been through this journey. So we completely understand every statement that was made. And Kutumba is your family's financial seatbelt. Because what we say is that one big thing that all of us don't do today is we spend a lifetime accumulating financial assets, but not even a minute sharing it with our family. And I think that's a huge problem and a concern in today's market, especially with the pandemic. And so we are glad to be solving that problem and making a difference for India. Thank you.
Thank you. I stand corrected. It's from the fintech and the financial
Yes.
services domain, and maybe I missed that with another startup working in the health tech domain. But nonetheless,
No.
financial services and the planning also stands as a prominent growing sector in India, and you guys are doing great work. I've got to know about this from our team. So congratulations and all the best for future as
Thank
well.
you.
So once again, congratulations to all the finalists and the winners. It's been really inspiring knowing about all of you, and we hope to stay in touch in the coming years as well. And this platform is now a permanent platform where the association does not end only with the competition. You're free to reach out to the mentors whom you are connected with, and also stay in touch for your future growth aspects and anything which the platform can do for your growth. So now for the final remarks, may I invite Mr. Mehir, who's the vice chair of CII Bhopal Zone, for giving his closing remarks towards the end of this session.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, and congratulations to everybody, all concerned, for yet another very successful edition of the Dream Startup Challenge. As Siddharth mentioned in his opening remarks, I mean, this started as a brainchild of the YI Entrepreneurship and Innovation vertical, and and I happen to be a very active YI member at that point of time too. So I've seen it like grow from where little seeds were shown in WhatsApps and where ideas were flying around to what it has reached today. So really hats off to all the YI members who have been part of it, to all the and of course to AIC RNTU for steering it from the year one to get it to where it is right now. So first of all, I would really like to congratulate the three winners: Team Kutumba, Team Holo Siksha, Team Clever Kisan. Great job, and all the best with your ventures. And I'm sure, let's hope we see a unicorn out of all three of you in the long run. And here I would also like to add that the other teams who probably didn't make it in the top three right now, you also are winners, and please continue to work on your ventures, and I'm sure I'm sure you'll do well in the long run. Here I think all the people here would acknowledge, I mean, the work of the jury. I mean, they've been through a tough time probably trying to choose the best three. They've sat through all the presentations. I'm sure they've given you great tips during the whole day today. And so my only advice to all the people who had participated would be just follow. And I mean I would not like to, I would miss mentioning if I don't mention the mentors who probably spent those last few months with all of you guys, trying to mentor you through the entire process. So thanks to all of them also for again continuing the great selfless work that you had been doing, trying to get these teams to reach where they are. I would have of course liked to thank the two great speakers we had today, Samar Singla and Gautam Shivaramakrishnan. Unfortunately, I don't see both of them online right now, but I must say their talk was definitely something that even some of us who probably been in business for such a long time, we had many things to learn from their stories. I mean, Samar's 3 pointers, I'm sure everybody has noted. I have made a note of it in my diary for sure. And I mean, though we practice it, but it's always good to have. And one thing which I may add, which indirectly, if I could derive something out of his 3 pointers, was that profit is not a taboo. We are all here to do that. We are all here to start an entrepreneurship venture, to do business. As long as we do it within a certain framework, we are doing it in a reasonable level. So that is something we need to keep in mind. But yes, I mean, obviously we need to follow, as Gautam also rightly added in his talk, that I mean, for some of us who have been seeing the entire startup ecosystem, I mean, I fully agree with him when he said that has never been a better time for startups to because you have so many platforms, and the Dream Startup Challenge is one of them, which has been helping in this work. But there's no better time for people to, if you have an idea, just go for it. Start, just try and make it, and I'm sure there's some way or the other you will have to make it succeed. So that is all I would say. I would like to say at this point of time, and so thank you once again, everybody. I mean, I would fail in my duty if I don't thank all the support system of Mr. Ronald Fernandez, Ayush, and the entire team, of our AIC RNTU. I would also like to thank all the back-end support of CII, YI, and so that's that from my side. And thank you very much, and best wishes to everybody.
Thank you so much, Mihir. That was like the perfect summary of what has happened in the last 1 hour in the valedictory session. And really, even from my side, as the main program anchor, I would like to thank AIC's team, Ronald, Deepak, Ayush, Krati, Lipi, and everybody else who have devoted time in coordinating with all the finalists, getting the sessions arranged, and then getting them up to speed to present in today's session. So with this, we come to the end and closure of the 6th edition. Very soon, we will be opening up the 7th edition. We are still trying to see what can we do differently this year, and how can we make the impact even bigger. So with some changes, we would come back with the 7th edition very soon. Till that time, everybody please stay safe, take care, and that's finally signing off from CII, YI, and AIC RNTU for the 6th edition of the Dream Startup Challenge. We'll all see you back in just a few months gap. Thank you so much. And unless there is any other announcement, Ronald, Kriti, we can close the call.
So that's it, sir. Thanks a lot.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. All the attendees who have joined, a big thank you to all of you also. We'll come back with some more inspiring stories for the startup ecosystem under our regular, webinar series very, very soon. And we'll get back to you with the further details. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend, whatever you can, staying at home, and we'll connect back